Yes, so I've got a lot of requests from many of you. So I'll try to cover everything, but time is limited, so we have to really go a little fast. Okay, okay. So I'm just focusing on the ones that are important from your exam perspective. Right? Okay. We have a subset W of a set of real numbers, and it is called a ring if it contains one, and if for all A and B being elements of W, the numbers A minus B and AB are also in W. So that means you have to understand the question carefully. So it will be called a ring if the set contains one and the numbers A and B such that A minus B and AB are also in W. So it has to contain one, AB, A minus B, and AB. Okay. So now look at the set S, m by 2 to the power n, where m and n are integers, right? So that means in the set S, I can have, if I take m equal to 1 and I take n equal to 0, then I can have 1. And if I take m equal to 1 and n equal to 1, I can have 2, right? And if I take m equal to 1 and n equal to minus 1, then I can have this as 2. Okay, so these three numbers can be part of set S. Now, if I look at the condition for W, it has to contain 1 and it has to contain two elements A and B such that the difference will be also in that, present in that, and the product will also be present in that. So now if I take 1 and half, then the difference will be half, which is present. The product is half, which is also present. If you take 1 and 2, then the difference is 1 and the product is 2. Both are present. So I can pick, from this, I can pick 1 and 2 as the element W such that it will contain 1, it will contain the two elements 1 and 2, their difference which is 1 and their product 2, which means S is a ring. Similarly, if you look at T, which is defined as P by Q, where P and Q are integers and Q is odd. That means I can again take P as 1, Q as 1. So I can have 1. And then I can take P as 2, Q as 1, which means I can have 2. That means I can form the set W, which will contain 1, and the difference between 1 and 2, which is 1, and the product of 1 and 2, which is 2. So that means T is also a ring. So that means both S and T are rings. So I hope you guys have some time today. I might extend this session a little bit because I want to cover some key concepts based on which questions will be expected. Okay. Okay. The next question is an isosceles triangle with base 6 centimeters and base angles 30° each is inscribed in a circle. A second circle, which is situated outside the triangle, touches the first circle and also touches the base of the triangle at its midpoint. Find the radius of the circle. Okay. So We have a big circle. We have a triangle whose base angles are 30 degrees each. It's an isosceles triangle with base angles 30 degree each. That means the apex angle would be 120 degrees. So that means this angle would be 120. These two would be 60 each. And this is inscribed in the circle. A second circle which is situated outside the triangle touches the first circle and also touches the base of the triangle. That means the second circle has to lie out here. Which will touch both the triangle as well as the circle. And it is said that it touches the triangle at its midpoint. That means this becomes the diameter of the big circle. So which means the base of the triangle is 6 centimeter. That means this is 3, this is 3. Now, if I join these two, since if I name this AB, since AB is the diameter, therefore, this angle has to be 90 degrees. A diameter always makes 90 degree at the circumference. And this angle is given as 30. So the other angle will be 60. So therefore, I need this length. If I name this point as C, then I need BC. BC would be, this is 90 degree. So I will use the uh, the rule of cosine. So that means 3 by 60, 3 by BD would be cosine 60, and I need BC, so I will use the tan rule. So tan 60 is 3 by BC. That means BC will be 3 by tan 60, and tan 60 is root 3. So this becomes 3 by root 3 or root 3. So BC is root 3, and AC would be, uh, this angle is 30. So tan 30 would be AC by 3. So that means AC would be 3 tan 30 or 3 by root 3, which is root 3 again. So that means the diameter of the circle would be 2 root 3. This would be uh, AC by 3 is tan 30. So AC would be 3 into tan 30. So 3 by root 3, which is root 3. So the diameter will be 2 root 3, or the radius will be root 3. Okay. Okay. No, I think I made one mistake here. Tan 60 is, sorry, I made one mistake here. Tan 60 would be BC by 3, not T. It's the other way around. So this would be, so that means BC would be 3 tan 60, which is 3 root 3. So that means this would be 3 root 3 plus root 3, which is 4 root 3. The radius would be 2 root 3. Okay, someone requested for this question. I hope you're there in the session. Okay. Let a and b a number which has all ones with 3 to the power n digits. Prove that an is divisible by 3 times an minus 1. That means if I have n equal to 1, that means it will be a 3-digit number. 3 to the power 1 is 3 digits, so the number will be 111. If I have n equal to 2, then the number would be a 9-digit number, 111, 111, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that means if n is equal to 1, then this is an and this is an. This is n minus 1, this is an. So if I take n equal to 2, then an is equal to this, an minus 1 is equal to this. That means if I divide an by an minus 1, I get 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1. So this number will be always divisible by 3. Any of these numbers will be divisible by 3. So this number will be divisible by 3. So that means an will be divisible by an minus 1, and it will be also divisible by 3. So therefore, an is divisible by 3an minus 1. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next one. Show that the function defined below attains a unique minimum for x greater than 0. What is the minimum value of this function, and what would be the value of x for at which the function is the minima is attained? Now, I had told you that this is the form of expression which is very important, which is of the form y equal to x plus 1 by x or any variant of this. So this attains a minima, and it is for x greater than 0. So x plus 1 by x will attain a minima when x is equal to 1. So that means y minimum will be equal to 2 for x plus 1 by x. Similarly, for x square plus 1 by x square, this will also be minima when x equal to 1 and the minima value will be 2. So the sum of this and the other one will attain a minima when x is equal to 1 and the minima would be equal to 4. Okay. Find the maximum among these numbers. Now, as you can see that all the numbers apart from 1 are greater than 1, right? 2 to the power half is square root of 2, which is greater than 1. 3 to the power 1 by 3 will be greater than 1. 4 to the power 1 by 4 will be greater than 1. right? So now we have to compare these numbers. So let's start with 2 to the power half and 3 to the power 1 by 3. So since the base are different and the powers are also different, so I have to make the power same. So I take the LCM of half and 1 by 3, which is 1 by 6. So that means I get 2 to the power 3 by 6 and 3 to the power 2 by 6. So that means this can be written as 2 to the power 3 whole to the power 1 by 6 and 3 to the power 2 whole to the power 1 by 6. So that means this is 8 to the power 1 by 6 and 9 to the power 1 by 6. So that means 3 to the power 1 by 3 is greater than 2 to the power 1 by 2. 4 to the power 1 by 4 is nothing but 2 to the power 2 by 4, which is 2 to the power half. So this and this are same. So 3 to the power 1 by 3 is the maximum. Now, even if I take 5 to the power 1 by 5 and compare it with 3 to the power 1 by 3, LCM is 15. So this becomes 3 to the power 5 by 15 and 5 to the power 3 by 15. So that means 3 to the power 5 whole to the power 1 by 15 and 5 to the power 3 whole to the power 1 by 15. 3 to the power 5 is 243 and 5 to the power 3 is 125. Once again, this will be greater than this. So for all the numbers that you see, this will be the maximum. Okay. The sides of a triangle are given to be x square plus x plus 1, 2x plus 1, and x square minus 1. Then the largest of the three angles of the triangle will be what? Now, looking at the sides, you should understand that x has to be greater than 1. X has to be strictly greater than 1. Because if x is equal to or less than 1, this side will be 0 or negative, which means that the triangle will not exist. So x has to be strictly greater than 1. So if x is greater than 1, then x square plus x plus 1 will be always greater than x square minus 1 and will be always greater than x square plus 2x plus 1, right? X square plus x plus 1 has to be greater than 2x plus 1 if x is greater than 1, right? Or in other words, x square is greater than x, which is always true when x is greater than 1. So that means this becomes the largest side. So that means the largest angle will be opposite to this side. And it's a straightforward application of the cosine rule of triangles. So if A is the largest side, then angle A will be the largest angle. So A square will be equal to B square plus C square minus 2BC cos A. So therefore, cos A will be B square plus C square minus A square by 2BC. So you just find the squares of the two smaller side and subtract the square of the largest side. So the squares of the two smaller sides would be 2x plus 1 whole square, which is 4x square plus 4x plus 1, and x square minus 1 whole square, which is x to the power 4 minus 2x square plus 1. And from this, you have to subtract the square of the largest side, which is x to the power 4 plus x square plus 1 plus 2x cube plus 2x square plus 2x. And you have to divide this by 2 times the product of the two smaller sides, which would be 2x plus 1 multiplied by x square minus 1, which would be 2x cube plus x square minus 2x minus 1. Now, if you look at the numerator, your x4 and minus x4 will cancel out, and you have minus 2x cube. So you'll get this as minus 2x cube. Then you will have 4x square minus 2x square, which is 2x square minus 2x square, which will be, and plus x square, which would be minus x square. So this and this will cancel out. So only minus x square will remain. And then you have 4x uh, minus 2x, which is plus 2x. And then you have 1 plus 1 minus 1, which would be plus 1, divided by 2 into 2x cube plus x square minus 2x minus 1. That means this becomes equal to minus 1 by 2. So that means A would be equal to, so this is equal to cos of 120 degrees. So A is 120 degrees. Okay. Next one. Again, a straightforward application of the sine rule of a triangle. Okay. The previous one was a cos rule. This one is a sine rule. So we know that A by sine A is equal to B by sine B is equal to C by sine C. This is true for any triangle. And let this be equal to K. That means sine A is A by K, sine B is B by K, sine C is C by K. Therefore, sine square A plus sine square B would be A square by K square plus B sine square B will be B square by K square equal to sine square C will be C square by K square, which means A square plus B square equal to C square. This means the triangle is right angled. That means angle C, C is the hypotenuse, so angle C would be equal to 90 degrees. Okay, just to mention here that if it is given A by cos A is equal to B by cos B equal to C by cos C. In a triangle ABC, this is given. So what is the value of angle A?
60 degrees, sir.
Correct. So this is true. This is true for all triangles. Now this is given. So that means you just divide. You get tan A equal to tan B equal to tan C. All are equal. This is a right angle triangle. Okay. Sorry, not right angle. Equilateral triangle. Now the next one is a very important concept that many people don't understand. Now, before I do this, you should be very clear about inequalities. If x is less than, let's say, 2 and greater than minus 2, then what will happen to 1 by x? If x is less than 2 and greater than minus 2, think of a value of x, let's say 1. 1 is less than 2, but 1 by 1 is greater than 1 by 2. Correct? Right? Similarly, if I take x equal to 1, then 1 by 1 will also be greater than minus 1 by 2. Right? Now, if I take x equal to minus 1, then what happens? Then 1 by x will become minus 1, right? So that means 1 by x will be less than 1 by 2, and it would be also less than minus 1 by 2. Okay, this is a very important concept of inequalities that you have to be very clear about. When x is positive, then this holds. But when x is negative, then this becomes less than both. That means if I combine these two, I will get x is less than minus half. So if x is negative, if it is given that x is negative and x lies between two values like this. So 1 upon x will be actually less than the reciprocal of the smaller value. Okay. Now you look at the interval here. X is less than 0, greater than minus 2 pi. So therefore, x is a negative quantity, right? So if x is a negative quantity, then this rule will apply. So that means 1 by x has to be less than minus 1 by 2 pi. Okay. So therefore, 1 by x cube has to be less than minus 1 by 8 pi cube. That means 1 by x cube will be greater than negative infinity, less than minus 1 by 8 pi cube, which means sine of 1 by x cube can change signs infinite times, because sine is going to go like this. So it will change signs infinite number of times. Clear? This concept is very, very important. You have to be very clear about this concept.
Sir, how the graph will change? Can you explain in the above question?
Yeah, sure. Which graph you are looking for? Sine of 1 by x cube?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So think of a value. Okay, let me draw the graph for you. So that means 1 by x cube will be less than minus 1 by 8 pi cube. I always consider pi approximately equal to 3. I hope you are okay with that, right? No problems. It's just for calculation, right? So that
Yes.
means 1 by x cube is less than 1 by 8 into 27 minus 1 by 8 into 27, which is how much is that? 8 into 27 is 8 sevens are 56, 5, 8 twos are 16, and 5, 216, right? Am I right? 216, right?
Yes,
1
sir.
by 216. That means this is the value of theta, which is less than minus 1 by 216. So this is a very small fraction. That means for all practical purposes, your sine graph minus 1 by 2 to the minus 1 by 216 will be somewhere here. So your sine graph is going to go like this, right? And then it will go like this. It will go like this, right? So that means when this is minus pi by 2, right? When the value of theta is minus pi by 2, mind you, then it will reach the value of minus 1. When the value of theta is minus pi, it will reach 0. when the value of theta is minus 3 pi by 2, right? It will be plus 1 and so on. Clear? Now you take the individual values. Theta is equal to minus pi by 2. And what is theta? 1 by x cube. So from here you find the value of x. So that means x cube is equal to minus 2 by pi. So x would be minus 2 by pi to the power 1 by 3. Right? Right? But,
Yes.
but you have to be careful about one thing, that when you are considering negative numbers, fractional powers will not exist for values other than perfect cubes like this, right? So you can take the you can raise the power to a fractional power like 1 by 3 only when your base is a perfect cube, right? Clear?
Yes, sir.
So that means at this point, for x equal to this value, okay, uh, the value of x cube will be minus 2 by pi. So sine of 1 by x cube is defined, but the sine of x, the value of x will not be defined. So you have to be careful here. Is the concept clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So your graph is going to go like this. Oh, sorry. Okay. In a triangle ABC, the angle BAC is a root of the equation root 3 cos x plus sin x equals half, right? And we have to find whether the triangle is obtuse angle, right angled, acute angled, or equilateral, right? So this is of the form A cos x plus B sin x, right? So whenever you have an expression of the form, what do? You multiply and divide by root over a square plus b square to convert it into a form of sine or cos of alpha plus or minus theta, right? So that means this will become root 3 by 2 cos x plus 1 by 2 sin x equals 1 by 4. So that means here, whenever you're asked to define the angle of a triangle, always keep in mind that you are playing with the cos rule, because the cos rule defines the angle. Your cos theta, or let's say cos A, will be b square plus c square minus a square by 2bc. So your any angle is defined by the cosine rule. So you have to convert this into cosine, right? So that means root 3 by 2 will be will be what is root 3 by 2? Cosine 30, okay, into cosine x plus sine 30 into sine x equals 1 by 4. Clear? Clear? That means cosine of cos A cos B plus sin A sin B, cos of x minus 30 is equal to 1 by 4, right? Now let cos theta be equal to 1 by 4. Therefore, theta has to be, the 1 by 4 is less than 1 by 2. That means theta has to be greater than 60 degrees because cos values start from 90. At 90, cos is 0. At 60, cos is 1 by 2. So that means cos theta equal to 1 by 4 means theta is greater than 60. It is lying between 60 and 90. Correct? Where theta is greater than 60. That means x minus 30 is greater than 60. So x is greater than 90. So therefore, it would be an obtuse angle triangle. Clear? Okay. Okay. A, B, and N are all positive integers greater than 1. If A to the
So,
power, yeah,
in the previous question, if we took 30 minus x, then in that case, the answer will be different.
yes, I mean, cos of theta is equal to cos minus theta, right? Right? If you take
Yes,
x, if you take 30 minus x, what will happen? This is greater than 60, right? So x
yes,
less than 30 minus 60 is less than minus 30. Does it make any sense?
no.
Right?
Okay,
Just
okay.
see, if you compare this when you're solving quadratic, okay, uh, quadratic inequality. Suppose you have x minus 1 into uh, x plus 1 is less than 0. Okay. So how do you solve this? One has to be positive, one has to be negative. So if you apply that, so one case would be x is less than 1, greater than minus 1, and the other case is x is greater than 1 and less than minus 1 at the same time, which is not possible. But technically that is coming from the solution. Clear? Same case here.
Yes,
Understood? Or suppose you're
yes,
given a you're solving a quadratic in which is related to the number of people. Okay, a number of people cannot be negative, so you are getting a value of x as 2 and minus 3. So you discard minus 3, you take 2. Correct? So it is the same case
yes,
here. Clear? So you can definitely try the other one. You will get x less than minus 30, which is meaningless. Therefore, you have to take the other solution. Right? So remember, whenever you're dealing with cos, you are actually dealing with the absolute value of theta here. So you can take it both ways. You're correct. Okay. Okay. Uh, Suppose a, b, and n are positive integers, all greater than 1. If a to the power n plus b to the power n is prime, what can you say about n? Now, the best way to solve these kind of problems, as I told you before also, is take values. Then it will become clear to you what should be the choice. Okay. So I will take values as per the given condition. So all are greater than 1 and a to the power n plus b to the power n has to be prime. Now, if this number has to be prime, then this number has to be odd because it can the only even prime number is 2. And for this equal to be equal to 2, n has to be equal to either 0 or 1. Right? And that too, if n is 1, then one between a and b has to be 2, and the other has to be 0. which is not possible as per the given condition.
So please explain this part again.
Okay. A to the power n plus b to the power n is prime. Now, what are the prime numbers? The prime numbers are 2, 3, etc. Apart from this is the only even prime. All other prime numbers are odd. Correct? Agreed?
Yes, sir.
So if this has to be even, then what should be the value of a, b, and n? One between a and b has to be 2, n has to be 1, and the other number has to be 0. Then only this can become equal to 2. This is the only way that this can be 2. Okay? Or the other way it can be 2 is if both the numbers are if both numbers can be anything, but the power has to be 0. This is the other way it can be 2. These are the only two ways in which it can be plus 2. Right? Because all are positive. Agreed? Agreed?
Yes, sir.
So it is given all are greater than 1. That is why they have specified this. So neither of these two cases is valid. So it cannot be 2. So that means this has to be odd. And if this has to be odd, that means one between A and B has to be even, the other has to be odd. Clear? Even plus odd is odd. Right? So let's take A as even and B as odd. As per the condition, both are greater than 1. So I've taken 2 and 3. Okay. Now look at the options. The options are looking for the value of n, whether it will be 2 or power of 2 or multiple of 2 or none of the above. Right? So let's start with 2. So if a is 2, b is 3, n is 2, then what would be the value of a to the power n plus b to the power n? This would be 2 to the power 2 plus 3 to the power 2, which is 13, which is a prime. Right? Correct? Okay. Next, 2 and 3 remains. I take n as 3. Then this becomes 2 to the power 3, which is plus 3 to the power 3, which is 8 plus 27, which is 35, which is not a prime. Clear? Next, I take 2, 3, and 4. So 2 to the power 4 plus 3 to the power 4 would be 97, which is a prime. Right? Now I have understood that if it is an odd power, then it will not be a prime. It has to be an even power. Clear? So next I'm going to straight away take 6. So 2 to the power 6 plus 3 to the power 6, which is 64 plus 729, which is 793. Now 793 is not a prime. Can you tell me what it is divisible by? Seven nine three is divisible by 13. I hope you know the divisibility rule for 13, right? Yes, no? So to test a number whether it's divisible by 13, you take the last digit. Here it is 3. You take the last digit multiplied by -4. Okay, so you get -12, and you subtract this number from the other two digits. So 79 minus of -12 is 91. This is divisible by 13, so this number is divisible by 13. Okay. The reason we multiply this by -4 is 13 minus 4 is 9. That is the reason we multiply this with -4. The same rule applies to divisibility by 7. So if I have to test a number let's say this number itself, to be divisible by 7, I take the last digit and multiply it by 2. And whatever I get, I will subtract from the first two digits. So 79 minus 6 is 73. So this is not divisible by 7. Clear?
So why do we take 2?
Because 7 plus 2 is 9. So that is why we take plus 2. And here 13 minus 4 is 9. Remember, the entire number system is based on the numbers 0 to 9. That's a decimal system. The base is 10. Clear? So any number is related to 9 and 10. The other way to test the divisibility is 793 is 7 into 100 plus 9 into 10 plus 3. So this is 10 square and this is 10 to the power 1. So in place of 10 and powers of 10, I will replace powers of 10 with my powers of minus 3. So what I'm going to do is 7 into minus 3 square plus 9 into minus 3 plus 3, which is 7 9s are 63 plus 3 minus 27. So 66 minus 27 is 39, right? And 39 is divisible by 13. So this number is divisible by 13. Now, why you change the base to minus 3 is because 13 minus 3 is 10. So when you're testing for divisibility, you change the base from 10 to minus 3. Similarly, when you test for 7, 7 plus 3 is 10. So change the base from 10 to plus 3. Okay. Understood?
Yes, sir.
And this applies for any number. Okay. Okay, so sorry, I did not finish the question. So that means I can see from here that it is from here I can see that it will be a prime for 2, not for 3, for 4, not for 6. That means it has to be powers. It cannot be even because 6 is even, it is not prime. So it has to be 2 or powers of 2. Okay. Okay. This number is strictly greater than this, larger than this, smaller than this, etc. Now I can understand that they are trying to relate this number to what? They are trying to relate the number to 10C0, 10C1, etc. 10C10. This is what they are trying to relate. Right? So you know that 10C0 plus 10C1, etc. up to 10C10 is what? 2 to the power 10. Binomial theorem. Correct? Summation of NCR is 2 to the power n. Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that means now I know that all these are positive numbers and none of them are equal. So I will apply arithmetic mean greater than geometric mean. It cannot be equal because the numbers are not equal. So that means arithmetic mean has to be greater than geometric mean. So that means this sum, which is equal to 2 to the power 10, has to be greater than, there are 11 numbers from 0 to 10. So 11 into the product of all of this, 10C0 into 10C1, etc., up to 10C10 to the power 1 upon 11, right? The 11th root of the product of 11 numbers. So that means 2 to the power 10 by, sorry?
These numbers are equal because NCR equals NCN minus.
Not all are equal. Not all are equal. For arithmetic mean to be equal to geometric mean, all the numbers have to be equal. Remember. Clear? That's the paradigm. That's the condition, right? So here, this number has to be greater than this right hand side. Okay. So that means this to the power 11 has to be greater than 10C0, 10C1 into all of this 10C10. Now here I'm given squares. Now I know 10C0 and 10C10 are equal to 1. So I can leave them out. So that means this is greater than 10C1, 10C2 up to 10C9. Right? Now 10C1 is equal to 10C9. So that means this becomes greater than 10C1 square into 10C2 square, 10C3 square, 10C4 square into 10C5. Clear?
Yes, sir.
So that means this number will be strictly larger than this first one. Okay. Okay. The function, this is strictly increasing in the interval. This if and only if what? What would be the value of alpha? Now a function is increasing means the first derivative will be non-negative. So f dash x has to be greater than equal to 0. That means if I take the derivative here, I will get alpha minus 2x has to be greater than equal to 0. So alpha has to be greater than equal to 2x. Now what is the range of values of x? It is in the open interval 0 to 1. That means alpha has to be greater than equal to 2. Clear?
Sir, for strictly increasing, shouldn't it be alpha greater than 2?
No, because 1 is not included here. If it was equal to 1, then it would have been this. X cannot be equal to 1. X is always less than 1.
So not
Right?
that, sir. F dash of x should be greater than or equal to 0 is not. That is only increasing. So for strictly increasing, it is greater than 0. That's all. No.
Strictly increasing means okay. Strictly increasing means it would be like this. Right? Correct? So at the start, it can be 0. Then it can go positive. Okay.
So if we are talking about strictly increasing, then we should not include equal to sign. Na?
Depends on the starting value of the function. The starting, if okay, look at y equal to x square. Is this strictly increasing or not? When x is greater than equal to 0, will it be strictly increasing or not?
Sir, it will be.
It will be, right? Because you are starting from 0, mind it, and after that it is all positive, right? It is the starting value which is 0, nothing else. Right?
Like substitute value of x in alpha greater than or equal to 2x. And if you put 0.5, then alpha it must be less than 2 na, for numerical value.
You have to consider the maximum value of x here. Right? You have to consider the maximum value of x. You cannot take a particular value. By your logic, I can take x equal to 0.0001. Isn't it? Agreed? Right? If I take x equal to 0.0001, then if alpha is 0.00011, then also this is positive. Isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So the logic is that you have to consider all values of x. You have to consider the domain, not the lower bound. You have to consider the entire domain. Okay. If it is flipped around, if it was given x into, instead of alpha minus x, if it is given x into x minus alpha, then the derivative would be 2x minus alpha, right? Then by the same logic, this has to be greater than equal to 0. So alpha has to be less than equal to 2. Yes. Right? So alpha has to be less
Yes,
than
sir.
equal to 2 on one side, and for now you put any value of alpha and check. So if x is let's say x is 0.1 and this is 0.1 minus 1. If I put this value now, x minus alpha, this becomes negative. Clear? So that means x will be less than equal to 2, and sorry, alpha will be less than equal to 2. Actually, alpha should be less than equal to 2x. So from one bound, I'm getting less than equal to 2. And from the other bound, I will get x alpha is less than equal to 0. So in that case, the value of alpha has to be less than equal to 0. If the case is like this. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Clear? Now do you understand why I'm considering equal to? Because here if I put 0, then it becomes x square, and x is a positive quantity, so it is definitely positive. Clear? Understood?
So once again, equal to part.
Okay. Consider this case, x into x minus alpha. Now you are convinced that alpha is to be less than 0. Forget the equal to part. You are convinced that alpha will be less than 0. This you are convinced. If this is it, this.
Yes,
Correct?
sir.
Now you look at the condition here. X is strictly lying between 0 and 1. So X is a fraction, a positive fraction. Right? Now, if I put alpha equal to 0 here, what do I get? I get x square. The value of the function becomes x square. Isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Convinced? And x is
Yes.
lying between 0 and 1. Both are not included. So that means it will be strictly increasing by definition. Understood?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that is why you have to include the equal to sign. Because of this domain, nothing else. If it was lying between 0 and 1, both included, then you cannot include the equal to here. So these are small concepts based on which questions are asked, and they will give you both options. Clear? Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you have to actually check by putting the value here. What you are thinking in your mind, you have to actually check whether it is working or not. You take a value very close to 1 here. Let's say you take 0.99 and you take alpha equal to 2. So 2 minus 0.99 is 1.01, which is positive. Agreed? It's working?
Sir, if we take a value very close to 0, very close to 0, then
Then you are considering the second case, actually. If you take a value very close to 0, what will happen? Point, I showed you that, right? X equal to 0.00001. So alpha, even if you take alpha as 0.00011, then also this is positive, and it will be positive. It will keep on being positive, and it will increase. As you keep increasing X, you have to go on increasing alpha. Understood?
yes.
So now, from when you see the thing, you have to understand one concept. The concept is you have to consider this in the context of this, the domain. You just can't take one value and check. You have to check for the entire range. So here, alpha equal to this will work, but the moment x goes to 0.5, will this work? No. Then this becomes negative. From positive to negative means it's a decreasing function. Understood? So that means if it has to maintain the positivity and it has to be continuously increasing, then it has to be strictly greater than or equal to 2. So you should be very careful when you're dealing with these kind of questions. Okay, the number of triplets ABC of integers such that C is greater than B greater than A and ABC are the sides of a triangle with perimeter 21. Very common type of question. A plus B plus C is equal to 21 and C is greater than B greater than A. So A is the smallest number, right? And all are integers. Okay. So how many such triangles are possible? So that means obviously the first value of A is 1, right? Now, if I take b equal to 1, then c will become a fraction. It cannot be an integer. No, sorry, it can actually. If this is 1, this is 1. Yes, this is the only case with 1, right? Otherwise, if a and b are both 1, then c cannot be any other integer. C cannot be equal to 2. Okay. Now you take 1 and 2. That means c can take.
So why can't C be any other integer?
You tell me, if a is 1, b is 1, what can be the value of c?
Greater than B and A?
Remember, any uh, this is okay, but for any triangle, any side has to be strictly greater than the absolute difference of the other two sides and less than the sum of the other two sides. This is a sacrosanct condition for any triangle, any side of any triangle. So is this rule getting respected? If you take A1, B1, and what value of C are you saying? You put 2, this is not respected. 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. That means that's not a triangle, it's a straight line. If this is 3, it cannot be possible because the sum of the two smaller sides is less than the third side. Not possible. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that means 1, 1, 1 is one set, then 1, 2, and then what C values can C take?
Sir,
Yes.
so here we are given the condition that A is less than B and B is less than C. So we are taking 1, 1,
Oh,
1 to
okay.
all the
Yeah. Sorry, you are right. I actually ignored this. Okay. Yeah, very good. So in this case, I cannot consider this case. So this will not be considered. Okay. So now 1, 2. Now C has to be greater than both 1 and 2. Right? Correct?
Yes, sir.
So 1 plus 2 is 3. Right? Now C cannot take any value here also. Now I go for 1 and 3. So if 1 and 3, then C can take 1 plus 3 is 4, right? So that means here also C cannot take any value. Now if I do 1 and 4, which is 5, once again C cannot take any value, right? Because C has to be strictly less than the sum of the other two sides. Then 1 and 5, 6, once again C cannot take any value. So that means if A is 1, regardless of whatever value I take for B, C cannot take any value. Now I go for A equal to 2. A equal to 2 and B equal to 3. So then 2 and 3 is 5. So C can take a value of 4. This is the only value that C can take. If this is 2, this is 4, then C can be 5. If this is 2, this is 5, then this can be 6, right?
Sir, I'm just a little confused.
Yeah.
Sir, A plus B plus C is 21, right? Perimeter.
Wait. I'm coming to that. I have not equated it with 21 yet. I'm just explaining the concept. Wait, you're right.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay. I'm just trying to show what can be the values regardless of 21. Okay. What should be the values of C that C can take integer values if the first two values are fixed. Okay. Just based on this condition, I'm just considering this condition. That's why I found that if A is 1, regardless of whatever value B takes, C cannot take any value. So A cannot be equal to 1. So then I shifted A to 2. Right? Now if A is 2, then and B is 3, then C can only take 4. If B is 4, it can take 5 and so on. Right? Now that means if A is 2, A is 2 and B is
Sir, 10. 10 could be there.
B is 10, right? So then C can take 12. No. So it should be 21.
Sir,
So
it could
this
be
can,
11.
so if this is 2 and this is 11, then this can be 13. This can be 8, right? So if this is 2 and this is 10, then this can be 12 and 9, right? Right? So 2, 10, 9, 2, 11, 8, then 2, 12, 14, and 7, right? Then 2, 13, 15, and 6, 2, 14, 16, 5, right? And 2, 15, 17, 4, right? And then 2, 16, 18, 3. So these are the values that are possible if A is equal to 2. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for A equal to 2.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, sir, if we are taking from the part we have taken 7 as B, so the sum is not is less than the sum is not greater than C. So 2 plus 7 is 9, and we have taken C as 12. A plus
Yeah,
B is
you're
greater
right.
than C.
10 plus, this is not valid. 9 plus 2, 11. This is valid. 10, 7 plus 2, 9. This is not valid. 6 plus 2 is 13. This is not valid, not valid, not valid, not valid. Correct. So this is the only valid valid triplet with A equal to 2, right? Now you similarly check for A equal to 3. So that means for A equal to 3 and C equal to, so 21 minus 3 is 18. So C has to be 10 and this has to be 8. Only then it will be valid. Right? If C becomes 11, 14, no. Yeah. So this is the only case which is valid. So if this is 4, so 21 minus 4 is 17. So this has to be 9. This has to be 8. Okay. If this is 5, then this has to be 16,
Sir,
9 and 7.
sir,
Yeah.
so couldn't we take 2, 10, 11?
2, 10, 11. 2 plus 10. 2 plus 10 is 12. Plus 11 is 23. This is 21. Right?
Yes, sir. Sorry.
Okay. Then 5, it has to be 9 and 7. So 5 plus 7, and if I take 6 and 10, so with 5, I can also take 10 and 6. That will be 21. With 4, I can take 10 and 7. So with 4, I can take 7 and 10. This will be 21. Then with 5, this. Then with 6, I can take 21 minus 6 is 15. So 7 and 8. Right? With 7, it will be 14. That means, no, I can't do anything with 7. So these many are the triangles. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So only 7 pairs of triangles are possible. Right? So you have to follow this condition, and the other one. Sum of the two smaller size has to be greater than the third side. All three conditions have to be followed. So that gives us these 7 results. Now let me give you some important concepts. So one is arithmetic mean greater than equal to geometric mean. And this equality will happen only when all numbers are equal. So if any of the numbers are different, then it will be arithmetic mean greater than geometric mean, provided all numbers are greater than 0. All numbers have to be positive. So which means whenever you see a sum and a product, you have to apply this concept. This is number 1. Number 2 is when you are trying to solve an equation which involves, so there are 4 types of functions. Okay, one is algebraic or polynomial, whatever you call it. Then you have exponential, then you have logarithmic and trigonometric. So these are the 4 types of functions that you have. So whenever you're trying to solve an equation which involves any 2 of them, for example, x squared plus x plus 1 equals e to the power x. Okay. Now you have to the technique is you have to always separate it out. Separate out the functions on 2 sides of the equation. And on the left hand side and right hand side, you should have 2 different functions. And then you have to plot the functions to see how many points of intersection are there. Those would be the number of roots of this equation. So for example, if I look at this one, x squared plus x plus 1 is a function which is always positive because the discriminant is negative. So there are no roots. That means if you plot the function at x equal to 0, this is 1. At x equal to 1, this would be 3. So it will go on increasing this way. And it's a quadratic, so it will come down somewhere here and go up. Right? So this would be the nature of the function of this side. E to the power x is a function which is going to go through this point. At x equal to 0, e to the power x is equal to 1. So that means this equation will have 2 points of intersection or 2 roots. Clear? Okay.
Yes, sir. But sir, I have a doubt in these types of question. Could I ask one?
Yeah, sure. Tell me.
Yes, sir. I'm telling. So it is the function 2 cos square
2 cos square
theta is x cube plus x equals to 2 raised to the power x plus 2 raised to the power minus of x.
So this, as I told you, this is, I mean, this is a favorite question of examiners. So 2 raised to the power x plus 2 raised to the power minus x is of the form 2 to the power x plus 1 by 2 to the power x. Right? So if you
Yes.
plot the graph, this function will be always positive. And the minimum value of this would be at x equal to 0, this would be 2. Correct?
Yes, sir.
So this value is 2. Now look at the other side. Now cos, this is cos square of, this is of the form 2 cos square theta. Right?
Yes, sir.
Now what is the value of cos theta at x equal to 0?
1.
1. Cos square would be 1. 2 cos square would be 2. Right? And after that, the cos theta will between, let's say 0 to pi by 2, what happens to cos theta? It goes from 1 to 0.
Yes, sir.
That means it's a fraction. That means cos square will be a fraction, and a fraction which is less than cos theta. Correct?
No, sir. I didn't get the fraction part.
Cos theta will lie between 1 and 0 when theta is lying between pi by 2 and 0. Agree?
Yes. Yes, sir.
It will be a positive fraction. Right?
Yes, sir.
And the square of that would be less than cos theta. And the square of any fraction is less than the fraction itself.
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
Consider the value of pi by 6. Sorry, pi by 3 or 60 degree. Cos 60 degrees half. Cos square 60 degrees 1 by 4. So 2 into 1 by 4 would be half. Right?
Yes,
so that
sir.
means the value of 2 cos square theta will also go down. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Similarly, on the other side, it will go down. Because
Yes.
between minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2, cos is positive. First and fourth quadrant. So the behavior will be exactly same. It will be a mirror image.
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
So that means the only point of intersection, not intersection, the only point where these two graphs will touch each other is at x equal to 0, and the value will be 2. This is exactly what I was telling you. That whenever you have a combination of two functions, separate them out on the two sides of the equation and draw the graph for each one of them and see the points of intersection.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Clear? I'll give you one
So
more
when
example.
theta
Sin x
so
is
when
equal
theta is equals to 1,
huh?
so when theta is equals to 0, so we are getting cos theta is equals to 1, and then we are multiplying it with 2. So that's the point of meeting, means intersection.
Because this is minimum at x equal to 0. At for all points, for all of the points, whether x is positive or negative, the value of 2 to the power x plus 1 by 2 to the power x will be greater than 2. You put any value of x and check. When x is negative, 2 to the power x becomes 1 by 2 to the power x, and 1 by 2 to the power x becomes 2 to the power x. It just swaps. Clear? Understood?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So this is a concept based on which questions are asked. You will be given a combination of function, and the question is how many points of intersection. Sin x is equal to e to the power x. So you have to remember the basic graphs. E to the power x or a to the power x, any graph of the form a to the power x will pass through the point 0, 1. So e to the power x will also pass through this point. And any graph of the form 1 by a to the power x will be just a mirror image of that. Okay. So this would be the nature of the two graphs. And if you're given sorry, sin x is equal to a to the power x, that means you have to look for the value of sin x on the negative side, because on the positive side, the value of sine will oscillate between +1 and -1. So it will never meet on the positive side. On the negative side, it will meet at multiple points. So there will be infinite solutions for this, and all solutions will be negative. Okay. The next important concept is when you are given a polynomial and you are asked to find number of zeros or number of roots, right? So let's say the polynomial is x to the power 4 plus 2x cube plus 3x square plus x plus 1. Okay. Now you have to find the number of roots, right? Okay. So there you have to simply apply Descartes' rule. And what is Descartes' rule? You look for the number of sign changes in fx. So here there is no change of sign, all are positive. So this is 0. So that means this has no positive root. And number of sign changes in f of minus x. So f of minus x will be x to the power 4 minus 2x cube plus 3x square minus x plus 1. So here the number of sign changes will be positive to -1, negative to +2, positive to -3, negative to +4. So there are 4 sign changes. So the number of roots on the negative side can be 4 or 2. Okay, so this is the rule. Okay, so that means all roots will be on the negative side. Now, if you are given the domain as x greater than 0, then no solution. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The next one is maxima and minima. Now, one of the way of finding maxima minima is arithmetic mean greater than equal to geometric mean, where the minimum of the arithmetic mean will be equal to the maximum of the geometric mean, and this will happen when all values are equal. The next method of finding maxima minima is sum or difference of squares. This is applied in quadratics. Okay. So if you are given a equation, ax square plus bx plus c, you write this as a into x plus b by 2a whole square minus b square minus 4ac by 4a square, right? So that means this will be always greater than equal to 0. That means the minimum value of y will happen when this is equal to 0. And that will be minus of b square minus 4ac by 4a. This is the way you find out maxima or minima in this case. And in case of trigonometric functions, for example, 2 sine square theta plus sine theta plus 1 equal to 0. So here also you have to apply the same rule. You have to write this as, no, sorry, not equal to 0. This is equal to y. You have to find the maxima and minima. So this is sine square theta plus sine theta by 2, which is 2 into 1 by 4 sine theta plus 1 by 16 plus 1 minus 1 by 16. So this is equal to 2 into sine theta plus 1 by 4 whole square plus 1 minus 1 by 16 is 15 by 16. So that means this first term is always greater than equal to 0. So the minimum will be 2 into 15 by 16, which is 15 by 8. And the maximum value will happen when this term is maximum. That means when sine theta is maximum. That means sine theta is equal to 1. So y max will be, put that sine theta equal to 1 here. So 2 plus 1, 3 plus 1, 4. Okay. Now you have to be careful when you are applying this method. If you get this in the form of 2 into sine theta minus 1 by 4 whole square, let's say plus 15 by 16. Let's say you got a minus here. Okay. Now here the maximum value of sine theta will be, so y max will happen when sine theta is minus 1, because you have a square here. So when this goes minus 1, this becomes minus 5 by 4. So this becomes 25 by 16 plus 15 by 16, which is 40 by 16 into 2, which is 40 by 8, which is 5. So this is, you have to be careful when you have a negative here. When you have a negative here, you have to consider the negative value of sine or cos. Okay. The next one is,
Sir, how have we calculated minimum part?
the moment you arrange it in the form of sum or difference of two squares, that means the square that you are getting will be always greater than equal to 0. So the minimum value of that square will be 0. That is always. Okay. So to find the minima, you just put this equal to 0, the square part. That will give you the minima straight away. But when you are calculating the maxima in these kind of cases, you have to be careful about the sign here. If the sign is positive, then you have to take the positive maxima of sine theta. If the sign is negative, you have to take the negative minima of sine theta, because you'll eventually get a square of that. The next concept is, if you have a cos theta plus b sine theta, then this will always lie between root over a square plus b square and minus root over of a square plus b square. This is another concept of maxima minima. So if you are given an expression of the form a cos theta plus b sine theta, this would be the maxima, this would be the minima. Okay. Okay, so these are the common ones. And Okay, and the last bit is whenever this I already told you, right? If you're in in geometry, if you're given circle with circle, then join the two centers, draw this triangle. This would be r plus r, this would be r minus r, and this would be 2 root over rr. This angle will be half of this angle. If this is theta, this is 2 theta. So that means go with sine theta, which would be r minus r by r plus r, where capital R will be given to you, theta will be given to you. You have to calculate my small r. This is the technique of doing circle with circle. Okay. Okay, so I think I've covered all the concepts that I wanted to cover. And you have to be careful about as I showed you in that example, you have to be careful when you're looking for increasing function and decreasing function. Please check the domain. Whether you're going to include equal to or not in the f dash text will depend on the domain. So that you have to be careful about. Okay. Okay, so I hope I was able to add some value to your preparation. Wishing you all the best for tomorrow, and do let me know how it goes. I'm sure all of you will crack it. Okay, just be cool. And one last thing, when you see the paper, first go through all the questions. Don't hurry into anything. Go through the paper and identify the ones that you're sure of. So do those first, and then try to crack the ones that need some thinking. Generally, geometry questions needs a bit of thinking. So and again, this is all personal approach. So I generally tend to do the geometry questions later. I normally deal with the functions and the algebra questions and the calculus questions first, because those are normally easier and you know how to do it. In geometry questions, you have to draw the figure and you have to think a little bit to see which concept to apply. So so that's another thing that I wanted to tell you. So any last question from anyone before we close? Just focus on the concepts, okay? Remember, the paper is just going to test you on your basic concepts. The sine rule, the cos rule, whenever you're given a problem on triangles, okay, just think of the sine rule and cos rule and how you can apply that. That's it. Okay. And okay, and one more last thing. So
Sir, I have something to ask.
yeah.
Sir, for the conic sections part, sir. Sir, there are lots of equations to remember. Sometimes, is it natural to forget all these, sir?
Which equations?
Conic sections.
Yeah, conic sections.
I mean, there are lots of equations to remember, no, sir.
You don't have to remember anything. You have to remember the concept. What is the concept of a conic? What is the concept of a circle? What is the basic concept of a circle? It has to have a center and a radius. That means it has to be of the form x minus a whole square plus y minus b whole square equal to r square. That's the concept. What's the concept of a parabola? It needs to have a focus and a directrix, right? Right.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So it could be a silly question, so please forbid me. Sir, in subjective
Nothing
part,
is silly, by the way. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
We all
But
make mistakes. Please remember, we are all human beings. Yeah, tell me.
sir, in subjective part, if we are not able to do the full question, but to know the bits know in bits the concepts of the question, if we even write that, are we gonna get marks?
See, I really don't know about these things because I don't have, uh, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't have direct connect with ISI. I am more focused with IITs and IIMs kind of exams where I know the marking rules. But in general, I can say that from what I know from IIT is that they don't consider the answer full unless it's correct. That's the rule for IIT. But I don't know for ISI, to be honest, so I can't comment. Does it answer your question?
Thank you, sir.
So that you need to check. Maybe you can go to the website because they give you all the information out there. So just check. They have FAQs there, or you can just Google and check, whether someone has asked that question. You'll definitely get some information from there. Okay. Okay. Anything else? Okay, guys, all the best, and do let me know how it goes. I wish you all the very best, and I'm sure all of you will crack it. Okay, bye.
Thank you, sir.